Okay, time for a Webbot summary, but this summary is not going to be like my previous summaries. And I'll tell you why. I paid the $10 for the report, like I always do, religiously, because I find them so useful. This is from July. It says this is effective, the report, from July 24th forward. And at the very end, this ends the Alta report from halfpasthuman.com. Please note that all material within this report is copyrighted and all rights are reserved. It will be necessary for halfpasthuman.com to pursue copyright violations at all levels. This will refer to any re-release in any form, including YouTube.com readings. This report is prepared at great cost and effort that deserves to be compensated. And I have to strongly agree. The amount of money this man has put into the server equipment, bandwidth usage, the programming that is involved, the constant tweaking of his algorithms and whatnot. A man is entitled to make money off of something that he created, without a doubt. So normally I put a good bit of my own thoughts into the summaries, the Webbot summaries, and I go and find the best stuff that I think I'd like, you guys might like the best, that at least my mind is telling me to grab, and I read it. So having that in mind, and this report was 19 pages in length. I've got 3 pages sitting in front of me of stuff that I compiled out of his report. So it gets kind of iffy when you talk about fair use of copyright information, which is using someone else's material to talk about it and that sort of thing, as in news content or whatever. Or a summary. You can summarize what something's about. So yeah, I've only got 3 pages out of 19, and again, I've picked and chose what I wanted, but I'm going to say I'm not reading these in full. I'm going to skim through right now all my notes that I have here, and whereas before I would just read them all line by line, I'm going to give you a lot less content, put it that way. And I'm going to also tell you I obviously left a lot out of this report. This is one of those reports, maybe the report, that had a lot of very interesting and good information in it. So, considering Cliff-I, I think he's moved or bought some new property or something, trying to get it ready, gardening and all kinds of stuff. He's building all these things. You see it in the backgrounds of his pictures and stuff. For God's sakes, go out and spend $10 to get the full report. This particular one I think is going to be well worth it. So give a man some credit for your pal Jason at 4. Those of you who want to know about the other information, it is very well worth it. Please go and buy his freaking report for $10. www.halfpasthuman.com. It's right at the top. Go to PayPal, pay it, click the button, send me back to his site when you're done. Then it redirects you to where you can download the report, and it gives you the name and password to get it. 19 pages, and it is chock full of very interesting stuff. I'd say this is the one report, if I had to ask people to go get one, this would probably be it. And the man could use some extra money right now after all he's doing in his new property. So again, I'm not going to read these like I normally do. I'm not going to give you that much information. It's not fair to him. So here I go. So the linguistic set that provides the name for the global coastal event, those of you who have been following for a while know and remember the global coastal event, some big global coastal events that take place in which rising seas, for whatever reason, or sinking lands, causing the coastlines and whatnot to disappear. That's that whole set. The rate, so that global coastal event, that set is continuing to grow. The data set is actually growing in relation to this. The rate of growth itself has accelerated noticeably, apparently, these last 8 months in what he says is a very noticeable way. Okay, skip that. The data sets are indicating that there will be extremes of temperatures at the Arctic and Antarctic, along with some issues with magnetic poles moving around and shifting. Same, Arctic, Antarctic, which potentially can cause, should be causing exceptionally cold conditions sporadically, not necessarily there and only there, but in other parts of the planet. There is what he calls a collective picture of disruptions that come to human infrastructure, which originates from the word ocean. The pace of change regarding Earth changes should start rapidly picking up. Food and or both food production should be very much affected by these rapid changes on Earth. Which he uses the proper word, Anglo-American financial empire, suggests that the population is going to undergo a very rapid form of reassessment of their position, personal, in history. And it says it's indicating that the population is going to use great effort to basically shrug off the officialdom point of view that they're trying to throw down, shove down our throats. Let's see what we got next here. Something about perception. I copied this sentence, this paragraph, and cut it down to make it make sense and everything else. Perception data set is directly related to confidence data set, in which the data describes as the last thread securing the US dollar. Problem with confidence in the dollar coming rapidly to a country near you soon. Let's see if I can give that. And some actions that are trying to take to lessen the effect by the feds and whatnot is useless. And that precipitates the shift into gold / silver / Bitcoin as the US dollar is disparaged from on high. Some point summer, and once again, I gotta give you the old disclosure of Webbot land, because I've seen this happen, so it's fair for me to say this. If you hear something like summer or winter or July or August or whatever date, and it definitely appears he's talking definitely right now, this month, this year, whatever, I've seen it numerous times where he missed the year completely, and then the next year or even 2 years later it was spot on. Just oops, missed it by a year or two. It's the nature of the beast. So don't get all crazy. Whoa, I better prepare, it's gonna be here next month. Don't do that. Take it with a grain of salt, but maybe a few grains of salt, because ultimately I think it's going to happen, like many things in the past in the Webbot that just took later to occur. So at some point in summer, Northern Hemisphere, some kind of fuel scandal will erupt. Some type of cover-up, of course, will come up. That it suggests that an active cover-up is or has occurred at some point. Let me scroll through this. Something about a vast oil resources that have been deeply hidden. Scandal tied to that. Secrets revealed. Remember that meme in the Webbot? That's part of that. And also, this fuel scandal also is focused around the measurements involved. So again, certain measurements, we were thinking that it was a certain amount that this whole time that we were being billed for. For example, I'm not sure, and the measurement was wrong. They were overweighing it, or something like that. So then we have, let's scroll down a little more. Germany and other nations to send warships to New York in negotiation with Fed banksters over gold. In other words, Where's our gold? Matter of fact, we got a little armada off coast. Just for fun. That to me sounds pretty absurd. Germany's going to send a warship and other nations just as kind of a show of force, saying, oh, we're here to get our gold. Where is it? And it says it seems to be that it's kind of between Germany and them, and not necessarily against the U.S. government. It's basically Germany and other nations, it says, with a show of force against the banksters. Like, we're not talking about American military, or we're not here for you. We're here for the Federal Reserve and their banker cabal. They've got our gold. That's who this beef is between. That would be very interesting. And that land is what they try to exchange to Germany. Look, we'll give you some land over here. Just, we can't give you the gold. And Germany says, you know, because you're a dying nation, we're not really interested in that. Something along those lines. So a little more to it, a little bit more. I'm not giving you the full summary like I always do. If you want to know every detail, and I'm telling you there's good stuff in here, go buy the report for $10. Cliff is a great guy, classy guy, here for humanity, does everything he does to help people prepare for whatever the hell is coming down the road with this tool of his, which isn't always accurate, that's for sure. But when it is, oh boy, you better look out. So, a lot of really interesting things. Just let me move on here. As part of the gold, what he's calling Anspruchsnationen, German word, many of the nations affected, like Germany, where's our gold, will renounce the use of the dollar. Now, I mentioned before, prior Webbot reports had been talking, and I gave you the detail about how it would be like people, our guys in other countries, our military, our people, try to get on a plane. We know the world doesn't like us. We're heading home. Can I exchange these U.S. dollars for your country's currency so I can get on this plane and leave? Sorry, we don't accept that. I know. Can I exchange it? No, we don't even want to exchange it. You just got to use our currency. Yeah, but I got dollars. I don't know how to tell you to get rid of them, but we don't take them and we don't exchange them. Piss off. That was a very old Webbot report. Quite a bit of details back then as well for that. So now this goes right in line with that. Let's see. Definitely going to affect our U.S. interests overseas, military bases, contractors, military contractors we got all over the place. They're going to be pulled back in. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah. More on them asking our military, more of that going on. Get out of here, apparently. Even so much so that charitable donations may be given to our people trying to get back on these planes so that they have the proper currency to get out of there. Ukraine. One incident, a platform on which scum, aka politicians, are standing, is described as local population is shown as grabbing one of the legs of the platform and ripping it off. This causes an expected spilling of politicians into some form of waterway / watercourse something. There are sadly no drownings, just merely humiliation. So be on the lookout for anything like that in Ukraine. Matter of fact, anywhere. Even if it's not in Ukraine, because the Webbot's not perfect, but it says Ukraine. If you see it, let JSnip4 know in case I missed it. So I can say, hey, Webbot hit, let everybody know. Several of the Ukraine subsets are cross-linked to larger sets that bring in Israel and Gaza into a set, their own data set, that we will label Kick the Jew game. So he goes on to talk about, the thing with these black kids started in America not that long ago, Punch, these knockout games. There's going to be something called, or at least what the data describes as, Kick the Jew game because of Israel. And people are just, it's going to take off for a little while anyways, and it may happen in America. It may be spread out over the world. You're going to hear about it. Let's see what else we got here. I'm going to say possibly good news. Of course, this is out in the future, but not too long. New data sets in support of political alliance include North America and the idea of new young leaders who will scare/frighten the establishment /politicians. So people are waking up, young people are getting involved. They're going to start winning elections apparently and starting to take root, and this is going to make the establishment very, very nervous. Also, it appears like, you remember how they had these congressmen a few years back doing the old town hall meetings, and some of them were getting screamed out of the room. I can give you one example I remember. I mentioned this before, but it's the most powerful one in my head that I remember. Older career politician, you know, town hall meeting. He's trying to push for Obamacare, and the people one by one are getting behind the microphone. We don't want Obamacare. If you're here for us, why aren't you listening to us? We don't want it. We like what we have now. This thing is 2,000 pages. Have you even read the thing? Do you see what's in it? And he looked up. No, I didn't read it. It's 2,000 pages long. Like, you peasant, don't you think I'm going to spend my time reading 2,000 pages of anything? Pfft. And the place became livid. They were standing up and screaming at him. He had to back out. Next thing you know, he's leaving, getting his car. They're still yelling at him, and he left. And he was like shocked, like, what kind of, whoa, how did I get this response? He didn't even know. Had no clue that the words I just said about me not reading this. So of course they're pissed off. You have to read something you're signing into law, you moron. So keeping that in mind, at least one instance in which a professional politician or politicians are swiftly and publicly thrown out of some type of meeting, population, town hall meeting, something, etc. Let's see. Moving on. Student loan debt scandal, nationwide and massive, will be coming to a country near you. And again, the outcome is debt repudiation regarding student loans. Not all of them, but I'm not sure what or how they're going to choose. Maybe the ones that they know will never collect on, just get rid of them. Because they're piling up. We're over $1 trillion in debt, just student loan debts. Over $1 trillion. And that number is growing. And the delinquency rate, by the way, in other words, they missed a payment, they stopped paying, has been growing massively over the last year plus easily. Longer than that, but not as bad. Recently, it's been bad. Markets entity, as in stock markets and whatnot, stressed to breaking over these next 5 months. Another word of scandals tied to that destroy confidence, and also systemic failure. Flooding of derivatives markets will occur as states/republics begin to raise domestic interest rates. It's saying that basically BRICS nations are going to be taking off and leaving us in the dust. And they're not stepping up to buy our debt anymore. As Lindsey Williams said, the Federal Reserve will step in and buy all of our debt. Everything will be fine. But they cannot do that forever, and they will not be able to do it for too long. And for the last 2 years plus, matter of fact, more like 3 years, they've been stepping up more and more and more. Now they are the #1 purchaser of all of our debt, the Federal Reserve. It doesn't even make sense. They're printing the money, and then they're buying our debt. And so what? We owe our national debt, the payments, billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, whatever it is, trillions technically. We're just giving to the Federal Reserve for pressing Alt-P, Control-P, print. Really? Let's see. Yeah, global confidence of the U.S. dollar goes from worse to terrible. While the data sets accruing to Bitcoin and gold/silver are indicated to be pressing upwards in dollar price, the situation as regards to the price in dollars for delivered gold/silver shows as being suppressed and stymied and held fast until this incident of extreme politics sets off a chain of events that produces the speech in which secrets are revealed. These secrets are probably not intended to be revealed to the populace. The data sets have exposure and shocking light and focused attention in juxtaposition to fear, frightened of outcome, internally shocked, bladder loses control. According to the accretion patterns, a clear turn will be taking place in the social order as a direct result of this screw-up speech, such that it can be used as a historical temporal marker for the liberation of gold/silver. Also, in relation to gold/silver/Bitcoin, data sets and support are suggesting that hyperinflation begins in the USA first and continues here the longest as far as all of the paper currencies of the world are concerned. And it says much of the language tied to that is about derivatives meltdown. Once again, Lindsay Williams said that too. This will all be about derivatives. And when one goes, it's like a chain reaction. Skipping. The data sets have silver at a price per ounce of around $88 to $89 by the end of 2014. That will remain to be seen. What if it's end of 2015? Let me go there with you. If you knew definitively, not this year, but next year, end of the year, you're going to see almost $100 silver. Is it really going to upset you that, darn it, wasn't this year, it was next year? Because think, $21 silver right now, I could buy a lot more silver in a year before it goes to $89, 90 bucks. When it goes to $90, again, if this is accurate, and I gotta tell you, these things, timing may not be right, but the stuff in these reports, I've seen them happen too many times to sit here and write this off as nonsense. So they're saying, again, they're only interpreting what the software program gives them, $88 to $89 by the end of 2014 price for silver. Now keep in mind, when Lindsay said when the elite have their way, they're going to set gold at around $3,000 an ounce, and silver will be somewhere between 75 and 100 if they have their planned way, etc. Everything goes their way. So in other words, the very worst scenario for those of us stacking silver is $75 to $100 an ounce. Worst case ever. Best case, hundreds of dollars an ounce. And here the Webbot saying $88 to $89. Man, that's right in line where Lindsay said they would like to put it. And he says, in all fairness, within our process, we cannot discern between an actual event, usually, and future discussion about the idea of such an event. So, other than people are going to be talking about this in the future for some reason or another, and those numbers are what they're talking about, and it's picking up on this now. Either A, because it's the price, or B, it's out there and that number for some reason is all over the place. $88, $89 silver, some reason is all over the place. Once again, history repeating, me thinking about all this, I'm all in on silver. I don't care. If I make that mistake, yes, it'd be the biggest mistake of my life, but I'm chancing it. I'm absolutely chancing it because I know history. And history shows us that bankers do these things over and over and over, and then they put the laws in, and new countries even form, and new constitutions are written, and we'll never do that again. And then slowly but surely, they pay off a politician or a group of them here and there, pay these guys off. The second you have a central bank that can print its own money out of nothing, is the second this whole thing happens. They can print the money, give it to their banks, all their bank friends, JP Morgan, Chase, right? Goldman Sachs, Citigroup. Now they're flush full of cash at near 0% interest rate. So then they can take that and lend it out to you and I at 5, 6, 7, whatever interest rate. And by the way, you seen any credit card interest rates lately? You're approved 20, 21, 29, 23%. You know how much they got that money from the Federal Reserve for? Almost zero. But you're going to pay 18, 19, 20, 23, 29%? Isn't that essentially like our country? We own the country. Why would we lend ourselves money at 20? Because we're not. The banks are lending it. They also own and control the Federal Reserve, basically. So now they're flush full of cash. They take that same cash and then start buying off politicians. And they slowly peck at rules, regulations, take that away, change this, change that. Next thing you know, the bankers have everything they need taken out. Now we can do our risky stuff. If we fail, the whole world, the population of America will just bail us out because we'll be too big to fail. And they'll scare them to death because we'll let the market go down a bit, frighten the hell out of everybody to say, hey, if you think that's bad, don't do this bailout. It'll probably go to zero. Oh my God, we got it. Yeah. And the people still weren't buying it. Even so, we still said, no, we don't want it. But the politicians, yeah, we do want it. Why? Because they're the ones who got the campaign contributions to pass this law called TARP, Troubled Asset Relief Program. Oh, it sounds friendly. I got a fart. And troubled stomach, fart release. Sounds normal. TARP. Please. Anyways. North America, USA. Bifurcated currency. So like a two-tier currency system that fails miserably. And also excruciating hyperinflation is a keyword. Political process for presidential elections, roughly around that time, it says. It was when this excruciating hyperinflation occurs. And note, all kinds of data sets for the word upset in multiple forms around the 2016 election season USA. Upset, wonder what that means. You mean like the citizenry have spoken and we all chose a different person? They finally, in this sheeple country of ours, they figured it out. Can't vote this two people they keep putting in front of me. Democrat, Republican. So let's just say, for example, Rand Paul gets out there, whether he runs, Republican or not, gets out there, massive support, he's the guy. And somehow the elections go off, or at the last minute, they pull what they did on Ron Paul, and they took his delegates away and gave it to another guy. But that's not who we want. We voted for this guy, and the last minute they changed the rule, and all of a sudden, that's not who we wanted, and this guy got voted in. I'm only speculating, not sure, other than upset presidential elections 2016. The only question I could say or ask is upset in which way, in whose favor? Upset in the elite's favor? Or upset in the Americans' favor? In other words, our favor, not necessarily our favor, and in which, again, someone else wins that none of us voted for, and they stole a delegate, they did something to screw us. That's probably how this is going to go, because you never have a power structure that is embedded the way it is today. This has happened throughout history. And at the last minute, when they realize everybody's waking up, they're figuring our game out. We can't afford to lose. We have to have our guys in power, because if they're not in power, every single thing that we've been rigging and stealing and doing is going to be exposed. Therefore, the whole structure, we've got to have our guy win. Do what you have to do to make him win, which means screw over the other guy, break the rules. It doesn't matter. We've got to have him win. Rig the votes, whatever. There's no way the upset, I don't think anyways, is going to be someone like Rand Paul or even Ron Paul, if he were to go, let's say, wins the election. Oh my God, upset of the lifetime. and then from that day on, things would be getting better. If that were to happen, the upset would be they let everything go. We go to war. The stock market just gets destroyed before Ron Paul can even step in office. But again, upset in relation to the election itself. So whatever happens in the election is what the upset's about. We're going to have to wait and see what that is. And one final thing I'll mention is, where is this at? Something about close to or in North Korea, possibly, it looks like several port cities, some type of local to that area tsunami will happen and cause some significant damage. And as a side note, Webbot has been talking about sinkholes. It's not mentioned in this particular data that I've copied. I'm sure it's in the full report somewhere. Again, this is my little summary. I didn't write this in there. But sinkholes, big meme in the Webbot said coming to a world planet near you. Has that been spot on? Absolutely. This big giant hole that opened up in Siberia. It looked like it pushed air out. A little different. I just heard from my friend the other day. We went and saw a movie Saturday. Him and his wife and my wife and me. We saw Lucy. I'm going to say it wasn't what I expected, by the way, if you want to know Lucy. It was kind of cool, but not what I was expecting. And he said, oh, did you hear there's another, that Siberia? There's one somewhat nearby. Another big hole opened up. I said, well, that's strange because the North Pole, the magnetic pole, actually the North Pole is shifting over towards Siberia. Edgar Casey, Sleeping Prophet, 1900s, early 1900s, talked about this event and even said that's the direction it'll be heading. Pole shift. So you're going to have that. Again, North Pole, South Pole, the Arctic and Antarctic, whatever. Poles, multiple poles, weird things happening, multiple north, south, weird magnetic lines, etc. So the old 2012 thing, Mayan calendar, I think that's like they pressed the start button then. Didn't happen in the middle of the night, one year. It was like press start and now let the events roll out over the next decade or two or whatever. So that's all I got for you. Again, I will end this. There's a lot more in that report that I left out. Huge amount. And very, very interesting stuff. You're probably going to want to buy it. www.halfpasthuman.com. $10 for a freaking report like this with the information contained in it. I'll buy it any day of the week. Take care.